Hi, this is Marcy Casterline with another movie therapy podcast. And this is about the movie Camille, the 1936 version with Greta Garbo and Robert Taylor. And I call this podcast Fatherless Women. It is interesting to me that these movies that lend themselves to movie therapy analysis often have long histories of tremendous popularity, showing that they have touched a universal chord. And this movie, the play for this movie was originally written in 1848, and the movie Camille with Greta Garbo was made in 1936. And I'd heard of this movie for a long time, but I'd never seen it until a few years ago. Coincidentally, if there is such a thing as coincidence, in the years leading up to seeing this movie, I had developed a new acquaintance with a woman whose behavior and character were extremely perplexing to me. Although we shared a lot of interests and we enjoyed being in each other's company, the relationship never progressed to the friendship level of mutual understanding and respect. After several years of knowing her, I happened upon the movie Camille. Watching it, I felt myself become immersed in the mind of my new acquaintance. All the compass points of her universe were slowly unfolded. I grasped her narrative and the deeper implications of the movie's narrative. It's a tragic narrative of unfulfilled talent and promise. By that time, I was familiar to some extent with her actual life story, and I could make some general observations as to why she and Dame Aux Camellias might share this narrative. We all play our roles in life according to our capabilities. This woman's idea of the role of friend limited my role as friend to partaking in any silly, frivolous whim she proposed, just like the main character in the movie Camille, as you will see. With some people you can share a universe. With others, they are living in their own fixed and inflexible universe. You may pass through it, or even get caught in their whirlpools, and then end up playing a role you never chose in their personal dramas. As I watched the movie and compared it with my new friend's life story, it seemed that the universe of Camille is the universe of the fatherless daughter, a different version of the equally tragic motherless son that I spoke of relating to the movie A Star is Born. The story of Dame Aux Camellias was originally written in 1848 by Alexandre Dumas. It's a semi-autobiographical story of his affair with the famous but tragic French courtesan who died very young at the age of 23 from consumption. He later turned his novel of their love story into a play, which was a very popular play, and the composer Verdi then used that story for his opera La Traviata. The play, often known as Camille or Dame Aux Camellias, is a favorite of actresses because of the tragically moving role of the main character, Marguerite Gautier. It is a story and a movie that immediately captures you in its spell. It's the affecting story of a young woman who must earn her living by her charms, a woman who is characterized at the opening of the film as one who lives on the, quote, quicksands of popularity. This is very similar to the plight of the leading man in A Star is Born. He also lives on the quicksands of popularity, and when they fail him, he has no self-integrity to strengthen him and must rely on alcohol to hold himself together. In Camille, our heroine, Marguerite Gautier, relies on her feminine charms as a courtesan, basically a high-class prostitute, to support herself. In the very first moments of the movie, she laughingly pleads guilty to heedless extravagance. She wants a huge bouquet of the largest camellias, too many hats, too many dresses, and too many jewels. Put another way, she is not selling herself cheap, and we sympathize with her in her situation because she is so lovely and so intelligent. In fact, she believes she is too intelligent to believe in freely given love. The former country girl declares that cows and chickens make better friends than anyone she's met in Paris. She is cautioned by a silly but well-meaning friend that she must not be so spendthrift, because she will not be young forever. She must think of her future, and her friend has just the very wealthy candidate to keep her in the style she is accustomed to. Is he old and fat? Marguerite asks playfully, sure that he must be. Her silly friend protests that he's very elegant and handsome. That night, the two go to one of the pleasure palaces of the demi-monde to display Marguerite to this rich baron and attract his attentions. A mistake is made, and Marguerite is introduced to the very handsome young Armand, played by Robert Taylor. She flirts with him, believing he is the rich baron. He claims to have been in love with her for a year, ever since he first saw her from a distance. When Marguerite becomes aware that this young, attractive man who professes his love for her is not the rich baron, but only a modestly well-off gentleman, she warns him that she has a reputation for being the most extravagant and most insincere woman in Paris. But she adds that though she is not overly sincere, she is not sorry that the mistake has happened. Yes, she is glad that she met Armand and glad that he loves her. However, Marguerite goes off with her wealthy baron and reaps the reward of a very full purse before he leaves for Russia. She immediately uses some of that money to take care of an old coachman. Her silly friend criticizes her, saying it's a mistake for any woman to have a heart bigger than her purse. When a friend of hers who has worked in a linen shop with her when they first arrived in Paris gets engaged to a working-class man, Marguerite tries to talk her out of it, saying, "You can do better than love." Then Marguerite has another bout of illness and spends the next 6 months in bed. By accident, she finds out that Armand has visited her and sent her flowers every single day. She's shocked by his devotion and tells him that he was the only one who came. Moved by his love for her, she invites him to her upcoming birthday party. He attends and is shocked by what he witnesses. Marguerite has put on a lavish spread for her friends, whose behavior is a sharp contrast to Marguerite's dignity and elegance. Their antics become increasingly ill-mannered, unseemly, and vulgar. Marguerite dances until she collapses, but her zany friends go right on with their loud, inconsiderate, mad shenanigans. She retreats to her bedroom, followed by Armand, who admonishes her that she needs someone to look after her because she's killing herself. She acidly replies, "If I am, you're the only one who objects." After reaffirming his love for her, he coolly observes, "This company doesn't suit you at all." But Marguerite refuses to accept this. "These are the only friends I have, and I'm no better than they are." Eventually, Armand convinces Marguerite that she should retire to the country for her health, where they can live together in love and on his yearly income, which, she points out, is what she usually spends in a month. Nevertheless, she is charmed by the idea and by his love for her, but her debts are beyond anything he could pay, so she is trapped until she persuades the baron to pay up all her debts for her. In the country cottage retreat, Marguerite is happier than she ever dreamed possible. She and Armand are in love, enjoying healthy, peaceful country living. She is still weak, but her condition is much better than when she lived so carelessly in the city. She passionately declares to Armand, "I'd give up everything in the world for you. Never doubt that I love you more than the world, more than myself." Soon, however, Marguerite is distressed to hear from her Paris friends that Armand has given up a foreign office post abroad that he was offered in order to remain with her in the country. Then, while Armand is in Paris arranging their finances, his father comes to see Marguerite and to beg her to give up Armand. He says Armand is ruining himself for her. This affair must end at once. She hotly retorts, "Have you never known love to last? I shall love him forever, always." Armand's father counters, "Hasn't your own experience taught you that the human heart can't be trusted?" She pleads, "I have only Armand. Love is not always selfish, nor goodness dull, nor men faithless. You are asking a great sacrifice." I knew I was too happy. But she does give up Armand because she loves him too much to ruin his chances, and she knows she is dying. She writes him a letter convincing him that she never loved him and wants to be rich again with the Baron. She says she has to leave him to pay her debts. She succeeds in making Armand hate her. Several months later, she is bedridden and dying alone with her creditors waiting at her door and her silly friends still borrowing money from her. She hangs on to life in the hope that Armand will come to her once more. Finally, he arrives, and they reconcile in each other's arms. As she is dying in his arms, she tells him, "I will live in your heart where the world cannot see me." Tragic, and I know you have, at the very least, a lump in your throat for poor Marguerite. Okay, that's the basic emotional narrative that drives the plot of Camille. Now ask yourself, why is this so popular? And why do so many women relate to living this seemingly tragic and confused narrative? Why doesn't Marguerite believe in love? Why is she so extravagant and heedless of her future? Why doesn't she stick with Armand, who loves her? My theory is that this story is one version of the universal theme of the fatherless woman. Marguerite is the little girl who can't grow up. She is trapped in the narrative of seeking a father figure who will indulge and support her. Perhaps what has caused her to be like this is a childhood where a real or steady father figure is absent. This could cause the little girl to imitate her mother by trying to flirt with and please the men that cycle through her life playing the role of daddy. In a more stable situation, it would be made obvious to the child that daddy's interest in mommy was different than his affection for his daughter. But for the fatherless woman, who may even have had a real father who had been largely absent, these girls only know one way to behave toward a man, and that way is a childish flirtation with an expectation of both financial support and emotional indulgence. However, the one big difference for these women like Marguerite is that when they reach adulthood, because none of their lovers really are their father, these men expect real sex in exchange for their love. So Marguerite is stuck with an unhappy bargain. She must reciprocate with actual adult sex to get daddy's affection. Thus, sex is not given freely. It is demanded as payment for playing daddy. Of course, this totally violates Marguerite's childish integrity and bars her from becoming an adult, with the choice of being a sexually free person. This leads to Marguerite not believing in love, since love has always been conditional on bestowing sexual favors, and it also traps Marguerite in her childish behaviors, as she tries to recreate her childish wish of having a daddy. She uses the money her sugar daddies give her to buy herself extravagant presents of flowers, clothes, and gems, unworried about the debt or the future, just like a child, and just like the child she longs to be. These are the problems that daddy is supposed to take care of. She further acts out her childlike state by surrounding herself with silly characters who behave like greedy, thoughtless children. Marguerite wants to play like an irresponsible child, outlandishly and without restraint or seriousness. She can't grow up. I don't think it's so much that the father figure is the one who lays down the law. Rather, it is the absence of a father that becomes the controlling influence in this story. The Marguerites of the world have been forced since childhood to act out their love and desire for a father to various men who flit through their lives and who take her childish adoration without staying long enough to give her the real love she needs. She probably has, over and over again, used her childish feminine attractiveness as the lure for daddy's love, but never gotten a real love that would allow her to grow up and feel confident in herself as a free, sexual woman who can choose love and life for herself. In Camille, the very sick Marguerite's claim to be giving up Armand for his own good and in the French demi-monde of that era, where marriage and careers were passed down through generations, rather than being based on love and merit, that was probably true. But this is also an emblematic story, a rationale, like The Razor's Edge was for my husband. The story is what a person stuck in this psychological narrative tells himself as an excuse for otherwise inexplicable behaviors that are self-defeating and self-destructive. If there is another movie like Nightmare Alley, which portrayed my husband's real story as opposed to his self-justifying narrative, about Marguerite's real story behind the facade, I haven't found it yet. But I'll keep looking. I have a feeling it's out there. Thank you so much for listening to this. I hope my movie therapy is interesting to you and helpful to help you understand yourself and your friends. And if you want to read more about my real story with my husband, read Bedeviled. It's on Amazon on Kindle as a paperback. By Marcy O'Rourke, O''Rourke, which was my married name, and my husband was Tom O'Rourke. The book is about Tom, basically, and our relationship and his mental problem. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope you find movie therapy helpful. It helped me so much in understanding my life and the people around me, and having peace and forgiveness with the people I knew. I hope it helps you. Thank you.